This is beautiful. My mother, Patricia Brooks, stood in the middle of my new living room, slowly turning in a circle. For one brief moment, I thought she was happy for me. Then she looked straight at me. "Why didn't you tell us you were buying a house?" The smile disappeared from her face. Before I could answer, my father, Walter Brooks, dropped the folder he'd been holding onto the kitchen counter. "You made a major financial decision without talking to us." I laughed nervously. "I bought it with my own money. I've been saving for years." "Exactly," Dad replied. "You've been saving." His tone made my stomach tighten. I glanced around the house. Fresh paint, empty bookshelves, moving boxes still stacked near the stairs. I'd imagined this day 100 times. I thought my parents would hug me, maybe even cry. Instead, they looked angry. "I don't understand," I said. Mom crossed her arms. "You had enough money for a down payment. Why wouldn't you ask us first?" "Ask you what? If it was okay?" Dad sighed impatiently. "No. What you plan to do with that money?" I stared at him. "What I planned? It's my money." Neither of them answered. For a few seconds, the room became painfully quiet. Then Dad muttered something under his breath. "You just ruined everything." I frowned. "Ruined what?" Mom shot him a quick look, but it was too late. Dad had already said it. "We already told Aaliyah we'd help her open her salon." I blinked. "What does that have to do with me?" Mom stepped forward. "We've been talking about this for months. Aaliyah finally found the perfect location. She just needed the startup money." I looked from one parent to the other. "You mean, you expected me to pay for it?" Dad didn't hesitate. "We expected you to help your sister." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You never asked me." Mom sounded offended. "We shouldn't have to. Your family." I slowly placed my house keys on the kitchen island. "I've been working 60-hour weeks. I skipped vacations. I drove the same car for 9 years. I packed lunches instead of eating out. I did all of that because I wanted my own home." Dad shook his head. "You could have bought a smaller house later. Your sister needs this opportunity now." I laughed. Not because anything was funny, because it suddenly explained so many conversations from the past 2 years. Every time I mentioned saving money, Mom would smile and say, "Don't worry, God has a plan." Every time Aaliyah quit another job, Dad would say, "She's meant for bigger things." I thought they were encouraging her. Now I realized they were counting my savings before I had even spent them. A car door slammed outside. A few seconds later, the front door opened. "Are you guys already here?" My younger sister, Aaliyah Brooks, walked in carrying a bakery box. She smiled when she saw everyone. Then she noticed the tension. "What happened?" Mom answered first. "LaToya bought the house." Aaliyah looked around. "You mean this house?" I nodded. "I closed yesterday." The smile slowly disappeared from her face. "You bought it already? You didn't wait?" Something inside me shifted. "You knew?" She looked down. "I thought." She stopped talking. "What did you think?" I asked. Dad rubbed his forehead. "We told her we'd figure something out." Aaliyah spoke quietly. "They said you weren't in a hurry. They told me you'd probably wait another year before buying." I stared at all three of them. "So while I was working overtime, the three of you were planning how to spend my savings?" Nobody answered. That silence hurt more than anything they had said. I walked to the window and looked across my front yard. The grass needed cutting. The mailbox still leaned slightly to one side. There was so much work ahead. For the first time, it felt peaceful. I turned back toward my family. This house isn't just 4 walls. It's every birthday I worked instead of celebrating. Every holiday shift I volunteered for. Every new coat I didn't buy. I didn't sacrifice all of that so someone else could spend what I earned. Dad's voice hardened. "So you're choosing a house over your sister?" I shook my head. "No. I'm choosing the life I spent 8 years building." Nobody spoke. The silence was broken by Aaliyah, barely above a whisper. "You really aren't helping me?" I looked at her. "I'll always cheer for you. I'll help you write a business plan. I'll introduce you to people I know. I'll even help you apply for a small business loan. But I'm not giving away the money I spent years saving." Dad grabbed his jacket. "I never thought you'd become this selfish." I picked up my keys. "And I never thought you'd decide where my money belonged before asking me." They walked out without another word. I locked the front door behind them. I wasn't angry anymore. I was confused. Not because they wanted to help Aaliyah, but because they had somehow convinced themselves that the money I'd earned had never really been mine. I had no idea that the conversation wasn't over. It had only moved to a different audience. The next call didn't come from my parents. It came from my cousin, Monica Reed. "LaToya, what exactly happened?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" Aunt Patricia told everyone you refused to help Aaliyah chase her dream. I almost laughed. So that's the story now? Monica hesitated. I figured there had to be more to it. There is, but I don't feel like defending myself. After we hung up, I sat on the floor surrounded by unopened moving boxes. I had planned to spend the weekend assembling furniture. Instead, I kept thinking about one sentence. We already told Aaliyah. Not we hoped. Not we wanted to ask. They had already promised her my money, without asking me once. Saturday evening, my grandmother, Evelyn Brooks, celebrated her 82nd birthday. I almost stayed home. Then I remembered something she'd told me years earlier. Don't let other people's mistakes keep you away from the people who truly love you. So I went. The party felt normal for about 20 minutes. Children ran between the tables. Someone argued over a football game on television. Grandma laughed as she opened birthday cards. Then Dad stood up with a glass in his hand. I'd like to say something. The room grew quiet. He looked directly at me. Family should help family. I've spent my whole life teaching that lesson. Unfortunately, not everyone here believes it. Every eye turned toward me. Mom continued before I could speak. LaToya chose a 4-bedroom house for herself, instead of helping her own sister start a business. Several relatives exchanged uncomfortable looks. Nobody knew the full story. Dad sighed dramatically. We're not asking her to give everything away. We only wanted her to put family first. I slowly stood. If we're sharing personal finances tonight, let's share all of them. The room became silent. I opened the folder I'd brought with me. I didn't bring this to embarrass anyone. I brought it because I'm tired of pretending. I pulled out several bank statements. 3 years ago, Mom needed surgery. I paid the insurance balance. Another page. When Dad's truck needed a new transmission, I covered it. Another. When Aaliyah fell behind on rent, I transferred money into her account. I looked toward my sister. I never asked for any of it back. Aaliyah lowered her eyes. I continued. Last Christmas, I paid off one of Dad's business credit cards because he told me cash flow was tight. I folded the papers. I didn't mention those things because I believed helping family shouldn't come with a scoreboard. I looked around the room, but somehow, the first time I spent my money on myself, I became selfish. Nobody said a word. Grandma Evelyn slowly pushed her chair back. She looked at my parents first. So this is what really happened? Neither of them answered. She turned toward Aaliyah. Did you know they expected your sister to pay for your salon? Aaliyah swallowed hard. I knew they wanted to ask. I didn't know they had already promised it. She looked at me. I'm sorry. I should have called you. For the first time all evening, I believed someone. Grandma rested one hand on the table. LaToya has carried this family quietly for years. You called it responsibility when it benefited you. But the moment she protected her own future, you called it selfishness. Nobody argued with her, because nobody could. Dinner continued after that. Not happily, just honestly. As people left the restaurant, Aaliyah caught up with me in the parking lot. I owe you an apology. You don't owe me a business. You never did. She looked embarrassed. I let Mom and Dad convince me everything would somehow work out. I smiled. I hope your salon opens someday. I really do. But I want it to happen because you built it, not because someone else paid for it. She nodded. I understand. A few months later, Aaliyah called again. This time she sounded excited. I got approved. For what? A small business loan. And I found a tiny storefront. I couldn't stop smiling. Congratulations. I guess I finally wrote my own business plan. You always could. She laughed. I just needed someone to stop rescuing me. Our relationship slowly healed after that. Mom and Dad took longer. Not because I stayed angry, because they had to accept something they'd never questioned before. Their daughter wasn't responsible for funding every family problem. One afternoon, Mom stopped by my house alone. She looked around the living room before speaking. We were wrong. We kept seeing your savings as something the family could use. We forgot you were building your own future. I didn't need a long apology. Those 2 sentences were enough. After she left, I walked through my house. The walls were finally painted. Family photos hung in the hallway. The spare bedroom had become my home office. Everything inside had been earned one paycheck at a time. Buying that house didn't change my relationship with money. It changed my relationship with boundaries. My parents thought I had chosen a house over my family. The truth was much simpler. I chose to stop letting other people spend a future I had worked years to build.